Did you see with Javante? I know you weren't here when he was when he was healthiest his rookie year in the part of last year. But are you seeing kind of what you think now is the best of Javante and as he's improving here?
Yeah, I feel like I'm seeing a really good running back. So, I mean, he's been productive and running hard, and so yeah, I think we have. I think he's feeling confident and healthy.
And when you look back at that Chiefs game, I know you were trailing, so that dictated some of the play calling. But you see maybe that ground attack, maybe something you can lean on a little more as you try to play keep away from home.
You always hope so. I mean, I think we're always hopeful that we can run the ball well. It helps everything. So, yeah, hopefully we can get the ground game going and keep with it. And the game's in a situation where we can do that. So it's always a goal every week.
Russ was talking about how well defense has played this year.
Which
Cushionberry?
Yeah.
What have you seen from him?
Real steady presence, smart. We put a lot on him with identifying the defense and getting the blocking schemes, getting the guys going to the right place. So really smart and calm, and also, executing his assignments well.
With the interior guys you faced the last few weeks, how nice is that when you don't have to, I'm sure you still worry about it, but for him to be able to handle some of those guys?
Yeah, no, it's super helpful. Obviously this week's as big a challenge as you're going to have with Jones. So it's vital to have those guys inside that can perform well against these monsters that these teams are throwing out at us.
Speaking of sticking with the run, is that just a feel if you can stick with it, like depending on where the game's at, or do you have certain times in the game where like, okay, we just got to abandon it if we're down?
Yeah, I think abandon it. Hopefully you never have to do that. If it happens, it's usually because, the scores got out of hand. But, you're trying to stay balanced, not be predictable. But I think, when the run game's been efficient as it has been for us, it's a lot easier to stick with it. And, hopefully we can continue that.
As that has become more efficient, is that an opportunity where you start game playing, say, we have the opportunity now to take more play action shots as the running game has more success, or do those things not always have to correlate?
Yeah, I think the challenge of getting in the formations and the splits and the people, that you have that are blocking some of those run plays but yeah, I think if you're running the ball, obviously it lends more credence to the play action. I know there's, people out there that say they don't go hand in hand, and there's different kinds of play action. Sometimes we kind of have a token fake, and you're more, the defense looks at you, you're under center, and they're like, okay, the defensive linemen are getting ready to hit blocks because it's a run formation. The fake might not be much, but pre-snap they're not teeing off, and then you've got your hard ball fakes, which usually require more people in to block, some of those defensive looks, and so you get less people out. So it's always a balance, and we usually, every week since I've been with Sean, we usually have a balance between some of the, I don't want to call them token fakes, but not as heavy a play action where you might be getting more people out, and your protection allows that. Because when you're really selling a hard run fake, it's a little bit hard on the offensive line because, man, I want to sell the run, but they're leaning and they're being aggressive. And now if the guy does hit a pass rush move, they're in a worse position. And so that's why sometimes you have more people in blocking, so they have someone backside helping them pick up if the guy stunts on them. You understand where I'm getting. Because when you pass block, it's like, all right, I'm setting and being able to handle if this guy makes a move on me versus firing off the ball. And if you miss now, the quarterback's back there, he's running at you. So there's all these things that you have to balance. I think I got off track of your question, but yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of Steve Spagnuolo's defense? It's kind of always played in the shadow of Mahomes and Kelsey and those guys, but they've really come to the fore this year.
Yeah, I think they're been as successful or statistically as they've ever been. I had some experience. Steve was in New Orleans in 2012, and it's always a stressful week because of all the different pressures. He's got a lot more, I don't know if courage is the right word, but, he calls some of his pressures out of schedule from what most defensive coordinators do. So every play you have to be ready for it. And it does limit you sometimes as far as some of the schemes you want to run because, some coordinators, you're like, hey, we know that we're getting these limited number of defenses. And so every play you put up against Steve, it's like, yeah, what happens if he zeroes here? What happens if he – and so it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game. And I think, historically, those kinds of defenses, you know, you're always talking like they may catch us once, but we'll catch them. And, you know, people have been catching them a lot less this year than in years past. They're really doing a good job.
What do you think of the wrinkle when they put Jones on the end?
Yeah, I mean, wherever he is, he's a challenge. And, you know, I know when they first started doing that, there was like, oh, good. I want him on the edge. I don't want to have to block him at the 3 technique, but he's certainly disruptive everywhere he goes. So he's one of those guys, you know, it's not every week that you put a jersey on your scout team where the interior defensive lineman is, but when you're playing him, it's a lot like Aaron Donald. Like, we have to know where he is every play.
Thanks, Coach.